会長は次期会長を選挙で決めるためハンター協会の最高幹部12神を集結させた。ハンター12神会長がその実力を認めた
Tiger, ox before him,
の際に協会運営を託すほか、暇な時遊び相手になってもらったりしていた。
Oh wow, he actually looks like a horse.
コードネームが渡され、会長に申請するメンバーのほとんどはその名に合わせ改名したりキャラ変するなど涙ぐましい努力をしているが例外もいる。
Right. Ooh, new opening there. There are exceptions, as they show me Jing and the guy in the suit. That guy in the suit is not in the lineup in the shot in the last episode. Pretty sure. Ox. The rat is missing. Oh, is that him? The guy in the suit? He did have a rat in the background. It's gotta be him. Wow. Botobai.
役不足の使い方間違い。自分で借りたかった。
Cheeto?
なのでは？
やあ、お待たせ。本当に申し訳ない。東ゴル島関連でてんやわんやだよ。
That's him?
参った参った。
いいから早く座れ。
いや、これは失敬。
Of course.
では早
The
速、
rat.
次期会長選挙についての議会を始めます。なんでお前が当然みてえに仕切ってんだ。
Head of the table.
お気に召さない？
パリストン、うざい。
Pariston.
いやー、僕も差し出がましいとは思ったんだけどね。何しろ僕ほら副会長だし、みんなより少しだけ役職上だし、そこそこまとめ役もできるし、年功序列ならばボトバイさん、
Botobai?
実際の進行能力ならばチードルさん、どちらかお願いします。
I see you. I see you.
遠慮しとく。どうせ荒らされるもの。
同意。
いいからおめえが司会続けろ。
He knew this is exactly how it's gonna play out. Scumbag.
反対4名。
Majority rules.
このまま僕が
Not quite the mental image I had of the vice chairman. Much more youthful,
では
at least physically.
僕から提案です。僕が会長に立候補しますから。
Of
選
course.
挙やめません？
Jing didn't react to that. So he's legitimately just trying to agitate them, make them uneasy. Wow.
皆さん合わせて11票ですよ。たかだかね。
12 Angry Men inspiration here.
ネテロ前会長は強すぎました。ゆえに弱者の気持ちがわからないんです。
And you
そ
do?
れは皆さんも同じです。僕なら弱者の痛みがわかる。
どのくらい私服を肥やして
Prince of Kickbacks.
ピンハネ王子様。
18人。じゃあこの
The
数
Ox.
なんだかわかるか。お前が副会長になって3年間、消息不明のハンターの数だ。ハンターにとって消息不明は
That's
天使よ
true.
りよほど異常なこと。
That's true.
今は10倍だ。言うことはあるか。
Interesting.
数字だね。胸が痛むよ。僕が会長になればきっと減ると思う。
Yeah, he's doing this on purpose.
立候補するよ。俺がジジイの意志を継ぐ。
Ooh, shocker. Out of character though. I
ジンさん、息子さん大変
look at
ら
that
しいです。
immediately.
らしいね。
僕お見舞いに行こうかな。
ああ、喜ぶんじゃねえか。
わかんないんじゃないかな。瀕死の渋滞だって聞きましたよ。
Oh, he's saying it openly as well in front of them.
言って死んでたら無駄骨ですもんね。
He's trying to get a reaction out of
行
him.
けよ。あいつは死なねえ。
They get each other. They get each other.
そもそもまず立候補って。
Ah, right after Jing stepped up.
それはてめえが言い出したんだろうが。どうなってんだてめえの頭。
This guy?
こいつのペースに巻き込まれると、ことがどんどんややこしく
Right.
なりやがる。
Immediately just control the room.
それじゃ くじ引きでは
Cheeto.
ふざけんな。最高責任者をくじで決められっか。
12人に紙を配ります。
The voice of reason.
その紙に全員投票かつ投票率 95% 以上の大前提を満たした上で最善と思う投票方法を書いてもらい
He's even got the red
そして
the red
第
butt.
三者にその中から無作為に選んでもらう。
Now Jing stepping up.
第三者。
ま、ビーンズでしょうね。
Beans, the green fellow. That's the name. Now see, Jing is not the type who wants to be in that position.
というわけで
I think that's strategic
ビン
as
ズ
well.
さん
責任重大ですね。
Okay. Okay, yeah. Something's up here.
選ばれたのはジンさんです。
Is that right? It's strategic. It is, it is. It's gotta be. He does not want to be chairman.
ルールその1、ハンター全員が候補者かつ投票者であるこ
Ooh,
と。
anyone can step up. I like it.
ルールその2、初めの選挙で最高得票数が全ハンター協会員の過半数を得なかった場合、上位16名で再度選挙を行い、
Kind of similar to the
それでも
conclave
決まらない場合
in a sense.
順次人数を半分とする。
It is.
ルールその3、投票率が 95% 未満の場合、その選挙のみやり直すこと。ルールその4、投票者は必ず名前を記入すること。
Ooh.
無記名は無効とする。
Jing wants to see who's turning out for him.
決め式
誰が誰に入れたか分かった方が面白いに決まってんだろ。
There's layers to this man.
こいつは自分が楽しむことしか考えねえ。
ルールその後、
わかったのか。
選挙対策委員会最高責任者はジン・フリークスとする。
その手があったか。
書かなかった。深くね。
Hmm.
これぞジンの真の狙い。
This is out of character for the Jing I know up until this point.
自由に選挙を操れる。
くじ引きで決める
I
のは
like him as well.
投票方法だったよね。ルール4まではともかく責任者はまた別に決めることでしょ。
じゃあ4まででいいぜ。
Ooh, he concedes.
いいのかよ。
これがハンター。恐ろしい。
A master hunter at that. Ah.
ジンさん、
There it is. Okay.
よ、
So it's staged.
どうしたんですか？こんなに早く。っていうか、来てくれるとは。
ああ、たまたま近くに。
Happened to be the area.
そんなわけないのに。
あのペンとメモ帳。
え？
会議室の電話の脇にでも置いといてくれね。
Yeah, Cheeto. She grabbed it.
投票のルールですね。
He predicted how it's going to play out. The dynamics of the
一
group.
体
おそらくくじ引きになる。
なぜそんな。
多数決や話し合いで解決しようとしたら死ぬほど長引く。
Yeah.
何しろパリストンがいるからな。そして他の連中から見れば6分の
Wow.
1になるって寸法だ。くじでほぼ手打ちさ。言い出すのは本命チードル。もしそのルールでおめえが納得するなら三つ折りにして当日まで持っててくれ。
私はジンさんが会長を継いでくれるなら。
ああ、それはね、ゼロだ。
Hmm.
悪いな。結果を変えたくてやるわけじゃねえんだ。俺が継ぐのはジジイの意志だけだ。
Hmm.
めんどくせえのはお断りだな。
このルール5は。
それは落としどころだよ。それを5番目に置いとけばちょっと
Right.
待て
That's why he
って話にな
conceded
る。
almost immediately.
それで俺がルール5を取り下げればルール4までが通りやすいだろう。チンピラと詐欺師の上等手段さ。大した意味ねえよ。狙った通りに獲物が動けば
Ooh.
ハンター冥利だ。道中楽しみたい。それだけさ。
Okay. Great first outing for Jing. You know, in the flesh, in the present. Jing, the master hunter, rather than Jing, Gon's absent father. Oh,
会場はハンター協会本部ビル内。
imagine Shellmark? I doubt it, but let it begin.
8月8日午前0時
Oh,
投票開始。
hey! Ah! Hanzo. Ah, Satotes! The big man. Oh, the spiky hair guy. Heaven's. Oh! Gurenyu! Heaven's Arena announcer? Come on.
入れていい
New hair?
意外だな。殺人鬼はこんな世俗的なイベントには
Ooh.
全く興味が
They've
ない
had
と思ってた
run-ins.
ぜ。
85点。
うん、興味ないよ。ほら、白紙。
90点。
Ooh.
人って人い
His own criteria.
いたら話がしたくてね。
あいつはもういないよ。
So is he just doing Hisoka
次にここへ
things?
来るのは再選挙の時だとか。
あっそ。
Yay! Ah! Oh, Tezakira! And his boys. Oh, Bisky! Oh, she's in black. Oh, there's so many cool cameos here. Like a kid in a candy shop. But he's not really impressed. So who's 100?
と言っても所詮こんなもんか。やっぱり次戦うなら
Of course. Hisoka things.
95点。
Oh, Illumi. Oh my god. This takes me back, man. Really takes me back.
第13代会長総選挙の投票結果です。有効投票数
Harrison. Cheadle. Yeah, that makes sense.
無効票48
What to
票
buy? Ah.
欠席票
Jing 7.
33票過半数票獲得者
Hisoka?
投票率 87.7%
I'll have to come back to that.
条件不達成により再選挙が決定しました。
As expected, of course, in the first go. Ooh,
おい、見るくらいいいだろ。
ダメです。
単なる
These
好
two.
奇心だって。
最高責任者に選ばれた以上、開票はすべて私が一人でやり
Ah.
誰が誰に入れたか見られなきゃ意味ねえじゃん。
You can find out later.
ハゲ。
Oh, the boys are back.
暇なの？
そっちこそ。
ニュース見ないでしょ。選挙はネテロ会長が死んだから。
Oh, wow. He's really out of the loop.
実は
Oh,
外来種のアリ
yes.
と戦って共倒れ。
あり
やっぱり。密かがクロロと鬼ごっこしてる間にいろんなニュースがあったのさ。君がアリか会長と戦えたかもしれないのに。
そのちょっとが面倒なんだよね。
Oh, I've
イ
missed
ル
him.
ミが僕のマネージャーしてくれないかな。
ゴンとキルアもアリ狩りに参加してね。
That should get his
ゴン
attention.
は今死にかけてて、キルアは親父に直談判。
Okay.
なんだって。
このままだと二人とも死ぬ。
二人とも。
Both of them.
それだけは絶対に避けたい。
イルミ。ちゃんと
The concern. That's sincere, isn't it?
ゾルディック家にはもう一人弟。
Yes! Come on.
こいつを始末したい。
Okay, so that's the beginning of the new arc proper, right? Long. I mean, it feels like the Chimera Ant arc is a distant memory, right? That's how I kind of felt at times throughout this episode, right? I see the aftermath of the Chimera Ant arc on display because you see that the gathering itself also functions as a memorial for the late chairman, for Netero, right? You see Bisky is in all black, and a bunch of the other ones are also in all black. I saw Master Wang looking really quite sad, right? You know, that section, that was exciting and sad at the same time, but you know, I had to go back because actually I had to go back to a lot of things in this episode because there's two things that are happening at the same time. I mean, that's common for anime, but the things that are happening at the same time in this episode, right, and the subtitles, yeah, you kind of have to pick and choose. Do I pay attention to the subtitles for this part, or do I go up to the, you know, other stuff that's listed on the screen or other visual information in terms of the Zodiacs, right? Wow. Talk about a colorful group of characters, right, by design as well. And, you know, it's a really clever bit of writing from Tagashi, right? To really distinguish them in that capacity, right? This whole idea of, oh, you know, they adore, or they used to adore the chairman so much, or they had so much respect for the chairman that they essentially ended up personifying these code names that they're given. So yeah, it looks like Tagashi does kind of decide to go with just the traditional Chinese zodiac animals. But you know, the code names, a few of them are given to some really interesting individuals. But of course, more on that in a bit. But yeah, the episode as a whole, moving on from the Chimera Ant arc, yeah, it's a bit jarring. I'll be honest, it is a bit jarring because I spent 50 plus episodes in that arc, right? And now this just whole new thing feels like a whole new thing. But ultimately that's just how it is. At some point you do have to move on, and now this has its own identity. This arc, it's not the first time I've felt that. This happened before in this anime as well. One arc to another arc, and just the tone of it. But yeah, the tone of this one is certainly set by the end of this episode. Throughout the episode, you can tell the type of arc it's about to be. There's a lot of comedic elements, but there's a lot of political elements as well. Serious stuff. So yeah, I think it's a really enjoyable first episode. Right, if this is officially the first episode of the arc, of the new arc. I'm sure you can call it a bunch of things, the Jing arc or the Zodiac arc, the election arc, there's Periston, as I finally get my first look at the vice chairman I've been hearing about, right, the Notorious. I've been referring to him as a saboteur. But yeah, like I said, the mental image I had of him, it was probably maybe not as old as someone like Netero, but maybe a couple of decades younger, right? Just someone that's a bit of an old head, perhaps, that kind of fits in that category, right? And being an old head doesn't mean that you have to look ancient or anything, you see, in the Zodiacs, the fellow, the oldest, the most senior, right? I suppose the one that has most experience as well. Bobatai, right? Bobatai, the dragon, the guy who is personifying the dragon, codenamed Dragon. Yeah, he's the old head of that group, but he doesn't look that old. But yeah, I wasn't really expecting this. Much, much younger guy. Really quite charming, right? He is. Yeah, he's got, he's got layers. That's for sure. I knew that before even meeting him, that, this is going to be someone really quite interesting. Everything I know about him up until that point just dictates that. But this episode made him even more interesting than I initially thought. He's given the codename Rat. Now, of course, in the sense of the Chinese zodiac animals, it's not really a derogatory term to, associate someone with a rat. But, of course, that Togashi is also taking that approach, right? Because the rat, some of the other traits of a rat, they certainly fit this Periston fellow, don't they? But rats, rats are meant to be sneaky. They can be underhanded, intelligent, devious, right? Ambitious. And this Periston fellow just embodies a lot of those things, all of those things, really. I said he's charming. He's a smooth customer, right? He's really on it. He's really quite dialed in. He's composed. He's calculating at all times, right? It just feels like a character that's not, just not going to be caught off guard, essentially. I almost said offside, that's a football term. But yeah, you could kind of apply that as well. The moment he walks in, you see how he loves to control the room, how he loves to agitate people, make them uneasy, right? The moment he pulls a chair, okay. That right there, that one scene just kind of tells you so much. Almost immediately. And you see, they made it really quite clear that pretty much all of them consider him to be a scumbag. They don't like him. There's a lot of disdain. There's a lot of vitriol, right? Even towards someone like Jing, but certainly not as much as they dislike Periston, right? At one point, the Ox said, okay, it's maybe not as bad as Periston, but, Jing brings his own, problems and issues to all of this, to this group dynamic. See, the thing that was clear to me is that even though all of these Zodiacs, at least 10 of them, are really quite unique, in their actual appearance as well, it felt like most of them are cut from the same cloth. Out of the 12, the two really unique ones, so I guess you could say there's three types. There's the 10 Zodiacs, and of course, both Jing and Periston are, they are Zodiacs, but those two felt really quite unique as well. But they also, in some regards, they also felt like they're cut from the same cloth. At one point it became clear that they understand each other, right? How they function and all of that. Though ultimately you see that Jing gets one over him, is able to get one over him Unless it turns out that Periston actually anticipated that as well. Down the line, maybe I might find out that he knew Jing's able to stage this, or he's able to cook the books a bit, right, in terms of setting it all up in that manner. And how about that? That's insane. Incredibly impressive showing from Jing in this episode as a whole. But that aspect of it, being able to have such an understanding for these Zodiacs, especially because he doesn't really even spend that much time with, most people, right? Because this Jing, he doesn't like to be a part of these groups, right? Group get-togethers and all of that. Maybe a younger Jing is a little bit different. I saw images of a younger Jing back in Great Island, right? And speaking of Great Island, a lot of Great Island characters show up here, and that's one of the exciting parts of this, right? Just the nature of this, this whole idea of the mandatory nature, rather, it really allowed for a bit of a trip down memory lane, right? It felt like Tagashi's kind of almost showing us the journey all of us have been on, right, as audience members through the different arcs. And to see those familiar faces, it just, I don't know, man, it just made me so happy. And I'm sure it's the exact same for all of you. But yeah, specifically, speaking of Great Island, you've got List and Dun, right? His friends, they showed up. Of course, Bisky in black. Of course, she's not as upbeat as she usually is, again, given the nature of this as well, the memorial aspect of it. And yeah, this really kind of shows you, even though he's gone now, the impact of Netero, right? The chairman, the late chairman, and just how much he meant to this community and how respected he was, right? So it's really cool to see that, even after his death, his legacy certainly lives on. That was one of my concerns, right? Back in episode 126, and this character, Periston, I'm just gonna, from now on, just call him Periston, now that I do have the name. How exactly is he going to try to spin this, right? And this whole idea of, the life and times and the accomplishments of the late chairman being just copiously mythologized. It's really good to see that he's got a lot of people that adore him, that respect him. And I'm speaking of Netero at this point. You've got the Zodiacs, you've got Jing, and through the flashback, you see that he most definitely wanted to make sure the chairman's final plan is intact, his wishes and all of that, his will. But, let's kind of go back to that flashback real quick and kind of focusing on Jing being able to predict, right down to the fine details, how exactly that group is going to react to this, right? Like, he got it spot on, right? A little too spot on. So it also goes back to something else that he's really quite sure of a little bit earlier, right? He's so sure that Gon is not going to die, right? He seems damn sure that Gon's going to survive this. And this is around the time Periston is trying to get under his skin, poking at the boar, essentially. But Jing didn't bite. He didn't take the bait, right? He just kind of throws it back at him. But the thing is, even though this is the first proper outing for Jing, up until this point, 137 episodes in, I've been given a decent amount of information about Jing, through third parties, people that are close to Jing, Mito-san, and other, friends, close friends, and just the narrator as well. But yeah, up until this point, I felt that Tagashi had already done a really, really effective job of establishing that, this is a one-of-a-kind individual, right, in the world of this enemy. One-of-a-kind hunter, a master hunter at that, right, as Beans, reiterates, as he sees a plan come together, executed to perfection, right down to the fine details. So I knew that he's this highly intelligent, highly capable individual, right? Resourceful at that. I mean, he's got to be one of the most resourceful hunters out there, right? And of course, I know that he's highly regarded. There's other hunters that look up to him. I saw Satotes make an appearance here as well. And he's respected as well in the community, right? As a hunter. Of course, there's the whole other side of him, Jing, the father, the absent father to Gon. But, here, that's not the focus. Even though there is that idea here of him being so sure about Gon not dying, right? So, let's put a pin in that. Because listen, last episode, they established that Gon is on the brink. And I believe I spoke of, it maybe kind of needing something like a miracle to save Gon. Yet here, Jing sits there just really quite confident that, Gon's going to be fine. He'll be just fine, Interesting. Really quite interesting. But the fact that Jing thinks that, I'm really quite sure that indeed Gon is going to be fine, right? But it's got to make sense. It's going to have to make a lot of sense. But at this point, it's becoming clear that he is going to be brought back to the Gon that he used to be, most likely. Of course, I'm hoping there's some change. Of course, there's the setup at the end there as well. The confirmation that Killua is heading to the Zoldyck estate, and he is about to go speak to Silva Zoldyck, right? So I suppose I was right about that part of my speculation in the last episode, right? That it has to be one or the other. Either he's going back to his family, or it's something else. And indeed, once again, another Zoldyck brings up, not once again, for the first time actually, official confirmation. Once again, as in, I brought up the missing sibling, right? The mysterious sibling. But now, a Zoldyck within the anime itself, within the story, has officially confirmed. Of course, the character exists, but this is the first time someone that is from that family has actually spoken of the sibling, right? Now, he confirmed that it's a brother. The actual line of dialogue there was that there is actually another younger Zoldyck brother, and it is being brought up in the same conversation as Killua heading back to the Zoldyck estate, right, to meet Silva Zoldyck, to go talk to him. So yeah, now it really truly feels like this brother is about to come into the fold, right? I'm getting official confirmation through Illumi at this point, essentially. I loved how Hisoka realized as well. It's he didn't realize that it is Illumi. He felt it. 95 points on his system, his criteria. But I knew. I know the sounds of that Illumi, the Hunter exam Illumi, right? So it is really fun to see that reunion as well. It's more than a reunion from the looks of it. Because to me, by the end of it, it actually kind of felt like he's maybe trying to recruit Hisoka for something here, right? That's how it kind of came off. But in terms of the mystery brother being brought in now, Illumi said something else that's really quite fascinating. I want to get rid of him. Now, of course, the immediate connotation of that is that he wants to kill him, get rid of him, right? But he didn't say that. He didn't specify, I do want to eliminate him or kill him. He said, I want to get rid of him. So I'm not going to, cross that bridge just yet, that he legitimately just means, to kill him, right? He said, I want to get rid of him. That could mean a few different things. But, before I speculate about that, let's kind of go to the beginning of that scene. As Illumi, after a bit of banter, Hisoka's just been out of the loop because he's been after Chrollo. But that's kind of insane that he's been that out of the loop. Didn't know about the death of Netero, who he's wanted to fight, right? I saw that all that time ago back in the Hunter exam. He had no idea about the Chimera Ant threat. So, yeah, once Hisoka locks in, he locks in. And he's locked in on Chrollo. So... maybe since he is a part of this arc, from the looks of it, I'll get, updates on that front as well. But, once the banter aspect of it is done and, it's time to get down to business and really, catch him up, he tells him about Gon being on his deathbed, essentially, right? And that gets an interesting reaction out of him. I expected something interesting. I kind of brought up this aspect of it in the last episode. How could someone like Hisoka feel? Once he finds out about Gon, how could someone like Bisky feel once she finds out about Gon? I'm sure she knows by now, but this probably wasn't the right time to get into that just yet because, this is the Hunter HQ. But I'm hoping for that. I'm hoping, I do get to hear from Bisky because I'm sure, off screen, some of these characters are speaking of it, discussing it, right? People like, Bisky, Wang Sensei, and some of the others that are attached to Gon. But going back to Illumi and Hisoka, so, him bringing up that Gon and Killua are essentially on the chopping block. The Gon, of course, Gon makes sense. But, the moment he said both, interesting, right? So at the most basic level, two things could have happened. And of course, I'm leaning to one side of it because it seems the most likely. So, it's possible that Killua actually spoke with Illumi already, right? I think that's an unlikely one. I don't think Killua stopped or he didn't get in contact with Illumi or any of that. I think he's just heading straight home, right, to the Zoldyck estate. Or, the other one, the likely option is that Illumi just knows, right? He just kind of gathered Killua's plan of action, right? And he seems to be really quite sure about it. And of course, that plan of action entails going back to the Zoldyck estate, speaking with Silva Zoldyck, right? But there appears to be other things at play here as well, right? And, the thing is, of course, Illumi knows about Gon as well, his condition, his critical condition, and he knows about the close relation that Killua does have with Gon, right? So he's probably just assumed that, okay, Killua is going to try his best to, save him from the brink of death. But based on the things I am getting from Illumi, apparently, him trying to save Gon is essentially putting himself at great risk of dying himself. But then you have to ask the question, how exactly is Killua at risk by going back to his home, to the Zoldyck estate, to meet his father? But that's the thing, the confirmation here through Illumi is that he is at risk. I'm not sure how exactly he's at risk, but that's essentially a given. He also goes on to tell Hisoka that he cannot have that, right? I can't have that happen. So of course, he wants to make sure that Killua doesn't die in this really highly risky plan that he's kind of put together, right? Doesn't die during that plan, rather. And it's a plan that is meant to save Gon, right? Again, bring him back from the brink of death. So yeah, a lot of moving pieces here. A lot of interesting setup, right? And of course, in the middle of that setup is the mention of that mysterious brother for the first time through a character in the anime, right? Someone that's actually related, close relation. But, going back to that idea of Illumi saying to get rid of him and all of that, and it not potentially meaning actually killing him. So is it actually possible that indeed this brother is there at the Zoldyck estate? And Illumi is saying that, he wants to get rid of him, just get him out of there, just away from the Zoldyck estate and from the Zoldicks. So essentially, maybe now exiling him. That was one of my talking points, one of my, speculation points, that this mysterious Zoldyck sibling has been banished or exiled or something, right? Maybe Illumi is trying to do that now, right? So I think one thing that feels clear is that, okay, Killua going back, to the Zoldyck estate, and of course Illumi being brought back in and, mentioning this mysterious brother for the first time, in the anime, as in, someone who's related to the brother. I know there's mentions of this brother. That's why I know about the brother, right? The silhouette shots and even the tour guide lady really early on in the in the Rescue Killua arc. But yeah, you get my point. I know sometimes, people, they like to jump into the comments almost immediately and, do the whole actually. So yeah, at this point, I think if I put all of this information together, I mean, it's clear that, there's going to be segments at the Zoldyck estate, right? And that might include both Illumi and Hisoka, or maybe just Hisoka, right? It goes back to that idea of recruiting Hisoka, maybe. As he said, I cannot let that happen, cannot let Killua die. But then, of course, the whole idea of, I have to get rid of him, the other brother. So I think I'm pretty certain at this point that this brother is at the Zoldyck estate, but, again, out of sight, out of mind. Like I mentioned, dungeons and all of that, they do love a good dungeon down there at the Zoldyck estate. But, Killua going to speak with his father, maybe it is to talk about that brother, to ask about that brother. Because it's beginning to feel like, that brother might be attached to Killua's plans for Gon. But also, let's not overlook, that idea of, okay, the connotation of that being, yeah, he wants to kill that brother. I'm speaking of Illumi, I want to get rid of him. If that is the case, then it's just insane, isn't it? You begin to just kind of, ask yourself, why exactly would Illumi want to do that? I mean, listen, the one thing I know is that Illumi is really quite out there. He's quite a puzzling figure of this story. He really is. But the one thing I do know is that he cares for his family. Yes, in his own unique, batshit crazy way, right? That's been clear. That's been clearly established, that whole needle aspect, a long time ago at this point. But I know he cares for his family. So you really have to question, what about this mystery brother drives Illumi to this point? if I take that angle, that indeed getting rid of him means to just kill him, right? To finish him off. So yeah, there's an exciting setup there right in the conclusion of this episode. So yeah, I like that idea that it might be, going back and forth. They've done that before. Togashi rather has done that before. But yeah, let's kind of go back to the cameos of the episode. Great to see Bisky, of course. Of course, Gorenyu from Greed Island. Hell, they even had the two guys that tried to pick on Gon on his arrival to Greed Island. The first two guys, right? The first two guys that try to pick on both Gon and Killua. Of course, I mentioned Satotes and the other hunter examiners, right? Really familiar faces from early days of the anime. Hell, they even had the announcer from Heaven's Arena, the lady. Hell, they even had the guy from the Zodiac estate show up. The headband guy, the guy who once upon a time actually tried to rampage the Zodiac estate, tried to break in and all of that. Him and the other group, I mean, they tried, but they got picked apart. They got decimated. But then, he ended up taking a position there. Even that guy showed up. There's people that are attached to Kurapika, who of course is not here. Melody's not here. Kurapika's not here. Leorio's not here. But again, there's more chances to come. This is not a one-time deal, right? That's why, it kind of reminded me of the actual conclave, right? The selection of the next pope. And yeah, on that front, there's actually, I'd say, one of the best films of 2024, in my opinion at least. Top 10 maybe, top 15 for me. I actually watched it at the Toronto Film Festival, but it should be out for everyone now, even on streaming, I'd say. And it's called Conclave, right? And it's, again, the process of picking a new pope. But again, there's a lot of really interesting elements mixed in as well, right? But yeah, I think it appears that Togashi did take some inspiration from that process as well, right? So there's more chances for other hunters to make an appearance. But the narrator actually does specify that, absentee ballots may be entered at a different location. So, maybe Togashi could take that approach to keep some of these characters out of this. Out of those three, Melody, Kurapika, and Leorio, I'd say the most likely, maybe Leorio, because, Kurapika and Melody, yeah, they're part of that group, aren't they? They have that employer. So, it's not a guarantee that they'll actually show up here. But yeah, in terms of people attached to Kurapika, I saw his Nen teacher, right? I saw Basho, the poet. So yeah, really cool, man. Really cool to see all of these familiar faces. Really kind of makes you think about the journey you've been on. And it's been quite a journey, man. 137 episodes is insane. And of course, I kind of joked about Sean showing up because I know he is a licensed hunter for the Phantom Troop, but highly unlikely. But let me kind of go to the results, to really kind of rifle through these, the results of the first ballot. Okay, so I've got the two screenshots here. Let's go. Yeah, Pariston, number 1, 37.6%. Cheadle at 2. And, that made a lot of sense almost immediately, right, given the setup I had for Cheadle. The third one I do not recognize. Botobai. Oh, it's Botobai. Okay, I think I said something else earlier. And then there's the other member of the Zodiacs. So to have both of them at 4, that's a big deal. You've got Sacho and Ginta, but Moro at number 8. That's kind of cool to see, actually. That he is quite respected out there, right? His ability as well as a potential chairman, that he could be a good candidate, right? Number 8's not bad. Number 8's not bad at all. But yeah, a lot of this is dominated by the Zodiacs, right? Of course, at the top is Pariston, as expected by everyone, given how he's able to get people on his side. And at number 9, you've got Peon and Cluck. Interesting, 11 each. Number 11, I don't recognize any of these names. 13, no, it's not ringing a bell, to be fair. 14, no, but 15, Jing. So Jing at 7. I think that's kind of low, to be honest, in terms of, I don't know, my expectation and just the setup of Jing as a character, right? As an individual out there in the hunter community. Maybe it's kind of low, or maybe it's just in the right place. I don't know. To me, it felt like it's a little bit low. Then you've got Tazagera and Bisky. They've got 6. So they're at 16. Then you've got Nov Sensei at 19. Not bad. Kite. I saw that. As it flashed by. I saw Kite's name. So that's it's a bittersweet thought, isn't it? And then Kenzai, another one of the Zodiacs. Number 26, you've got Menchi, that's her name, right? The other examiner, and then Satots, and 7 others. 35. Hisoka actually got 2 votes. So one you can just assume is Illumi, right? The other one, I don't know, because it's not Hisoka himself, is it? And then, of course, 46, it's got names like Gon and Hanzo and 25 others. And all of these people have 1 each, right? So interesting. Someone actually put something in for Gon. And also, before I forget, just because I didn't see all of these people on screen, people like Melody and, Kurapika and Leorio, doesn't mean they didn't actually, get their ballot in. It could have happened off screen. That's a possibility, right? Togashi could have taken that approach. So of course, even if there is a chance of an unlikely contender just kind of, storming up the list, for now, let's kind of focus on the top 2. Periston is clear, really quite clear. He's got 249 votes, right? But Cheadle is second at 42, and then the one below Cheadle is at 26. So it looks like it's between those 2. For now, at least. But yeah, like I said earlier, that makes a lot of sense that Cheadle is that high up, right? Because out of the 10 Zodiacs I saw, I know, both Periston and Jing are Zodiacs, but, I'm kind of focusing on that group of 10, the ones that actually personify their code names and all of that. As jarring as that is, some of them look super anime in their appearance, don't they? But yeah, even Cheadle, her nose, and I'm assuming it isn't makeup, right? Unless it is. I don't know, man. There's physical transformations at play here to look like these code names, right? The animals of the zodiac, the Chinese zodiac. But yeah, out of those 10, Cheadle most definitely seem like the likeliest, right? To be one of the main contenders. She appeared to be the most reasonable, most level-headed. And, even Periston himself, I think he says something like, in terms of actually making some progress, yeah, she's probably the best to, take control of this. And then, of course, he mentioned the other guy as well, Botobai. But, in the last episode, I had a question about them just not being around, being mentioned for the first time, and how come, not even 1 or 2 of them or a couple of them didn't actually end up joining the chairman. I posed that question under the assumption that, they are able to make their own choices. Here you see that it wasn't even brought to their attention, right? I believe it's Botobai who brings it up that, the chairman didn't even ask us. But yeah, it appears that, yeah, they do fall under that whole idea of Periston making things really quite difficult for the chairman, right? And this is in the middle of the Chimera Ant arc. I found out about this. So yeah, they fall under all of that, right? He blocked them as well from going. I remember Moral being really quite agitated in that hotel room. Really interesting scene, right? It's Nav and Moral having a bit of a back and forth about just the nature of Periston's role in the Hunter Association, right? And how he's able to kind of rise to the top and into that position. But the thing is, they made it really clear that the rest of the Zodiacs just really despise him, right? So they didn't put him in that position as vice chairman, right? So either he's selected by some other process, or the chairman himself, the late Netero, might have put him in that position, right? That's a possibility. Because listen, the chairman is an interesting fellow as well, isn't he? Or he was, rather. Yeah, the chairman actually does feel like the type of person that could have been capable of that, right? Making a choice like that to keep things interesting, to have that perspective, right? Kind of going against the grain. I could see the chairman maybe doing something like that, if it did fall to him, right? I'm not sure if he had the say in who gets to be, the vice chairman, or if it is just another selection process. But if it fell to him, I could see him making that choice. I could. But if that does end up being the case, you see that in doing so, he might have had a hand in creating this monster that is Periston. Though, actually, he didn't become a monster. He's always been like this. And, by monster, I just mean, I don't know, a monster from a certain perspective, right? And then he became, this problem for the chairman and the people that are, I don't know, loyal to the chairman, people like Nav and Moral, being the speed bump, during the whole, extermination squad mission. But, one thing that's really quite clear is that there's no signs of any family, any, biological family of the late chairman, Netero. So I guess I kind of got my answer. I mean, it's only one episode into this arc. But yeah, maybe, I mentioned this whole idea of maybe someone shooting up the ranks later, right? For now, it's Cheadle and Periston. So I don't know. Let's not give up on that just yet, right? Maybe there is someone out there. But the thing is, no one's mentioned anyone. It's one thing that no one showed up yet, but there's a lot of characters that are around. Even people like Jing that know the chairman, and others that know the chairman, but there's been no mention at all of any family, right? So I don't know, but let's see. But before I move on, this idea of Periston and the late chairman Netero, the thing is, if Netero actually handpicked him, right, for that role, at the most basic level, that tells us that, much like the rest, Netero actually recognized that, okay, Periston is special, right? He recognizes him as someone that is worthy of being a part of this group, even though I do believe that a big part of that could be because of, again, the perspective, a unique perspective that he could bring, right? Against the grain and all of that. Keep things interesting. It's one of the few things that, people like, I'd say all three of them really have in common, I'd say. You've got Jing, you've got Netero, you've got Periston, right? Keep things interesting. But, as expected of Togashi, he beautifully executes this introduction, doesn't he? It's effective, it's economical, it's engaging storytelling and introduction to a substantial amount of new characters, right? The 10 other Zodiacs and Periston. Jing I kind of knew, but again, it's his first proper outing as well. But the approach that Togashi decides to take here, it's like the perfect approach. I mean, the staging of it is just perfect, isn't it? I brought up 12 Angry Men, the dramatic potential of having these larger-than-life characters in such close proximity, right? In such a confined space, much like 12 Angry Men, kept in place by their duty. I mean, it's just the perfect staging, to give us this first grade look at these characters, right? Beyond just the actual designs of the characters, a look at their temperament, their disposition, right? Their dynamics within the group itself as well. And I get all of that through immediate thoughts about a subject matter that is, really kind of serious. And of course, because of these existing group dynamics that I get to, immediately look in on, you have these really great moments like the Ox, right? Bringing up this idea of the 18 missing hunters, not dead hunters, missing hunters. And he thinks that's much worse, right? That they just kind of disappear from the face of the planet, apparently. So again, kind of hinting at some of the darker things at play here, the darker side of Periston. I mean, it appears to be one of the only sides of Periston, but, like I said, there's charm, there's some comedic elements present as well. But yeah, let's kind of look at that, the whole missing hunters situation. Listen, immediate thought, do they sleep with the fishes? And just in case, for the people that might not get that, just, execute it. Right? Taken care of. But sending hunters for the wrong job or the, wrong hunters for the wrong job is one thing, because if someone dies on that job, you're still going to have like a body or something. But, here it's a little bit different. It's all about disappearances. So I don't know, man. I'm even kind of thinking about secret missions, right? One thing that became clear about Periston is that, okay, there's much more than meets the eye, much more than he lets on. So I could see something like that at play as well, that it doesn't necessarily mean that all 18 of them are dead, the ones that are missing and still, no bodies or anything. There could be other things at play. But yeah, there's a lot of exciting stuff here, right? And it doesn't feel like it's too much. you know, to meet all of these characters. Like I said in the last episode's discussion, there's a track record. And like I said, you know, Togashi just made it seem like it's easy, even though it's not. It's not something easy to pull that off. And, you know, I spoke of temperament and disposition. You know, there's a lot of fun characters there as well. You know, the ones that don't really think before they speak, they just jump in. You know, there's the monkey, Sayu, I believe. Cluck is another one that's really quite shouty. She thinks everyone's a creep. They suck. And then there's the ones that kind of hang back, right? It's always good to see those dynamics within an ensemble cast of characters, right? And you know, the crazy thing about Periston is that he actually reminds me of Shawpoof. Some of his mannerisms, some of his, you know, delivery, even, you know, the voice acting is kind of similar, I'd say. But, you know, even the look is there, right? So that's kind of nice. It's a nice thought. And, you know, before I forget, you know, this idea of Jing believing that, you know, Gon is not going to die, that he is going to survive this. If he truly believes that and, you know, understands that, then, you know, no chance in hell that he could possibly compromise Gon's hunt, right? The hunt for Jing by, you know, just going there and seeing him, right? That's really, of course, that would have been really out of character for someone like Jing anyways, but even, you know, on his deathbed. But again, you know, let's not forget that he does believe that Gon is going to survive this, right? Truly believes it. But yeah, you know, as a whole, I'm not disappointed at all, you know, with this first showing for Jing as a character, and Periston as well, right? I've liked Jing already, but, you know, I certainly liked Periston as a character at this point. But yeah, as far as Jing is concerned, of course, you know, there's layers to this man, and not everyone is able to see it. Some just kind of look at it at a surface level, you know, someone like the monkey, right? He thought, you know, Jing is just trying to have a good time and that's it. But there's so much more to it than that. And, you know, sometimes you see that Jing does present this, I don't know, image of himself, right? Perhaps for this reason, so people aren't really able to truly figure him out. But you see that Periston certainly understands, right? That Jing is essentially the same type of person as him, you know, that they might be on the same level, right? That they get each other, the thought process of each other, or, you know, the things each one of them is trying to do or pull off. But yeah, you know, if indeed this is the official first episode of this arc, it's a fantastic opener, right? For me, at least. I think, you know, it's executed really quite effectively, given, you know, the grand nature of it, the grand scope of it, you know, the amount of characters, new characters that have to be brought in, right? But yeah, I think that should do it for this one, folks. If you enjoyed that, consider dropping a like, consider dropping some comments, give me your thoughts. If you're interested in early access or timer-based full length or perhaps full opacity, consider checking out the Patreon page, links in the description and the pinned comment. But yeah, thank you so much for joining me, folks, and thank you for your time, because time is precious. It really is. And I do hope to see you again soon for the next one. Until then, take it easy.